You're listening to The Girl Dad Show.
Welcome to Season 3 of The Girl Dad Show, where we explore the intersection of parenthood and entrepreneurial spirit. Join me and some incredible guests as we share tips and tricks for finding work-life balance and making a positive impact not only on the world, but also our families. Let's create a fulfilling life together. It's The Girl Dad Show, Season 3. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Girl Dad Show. Today, I have Rose with me, who was the varsity captain for the volleyball team at MIT, and then she was the second strategic financial hire at Uber, and then now she is embarking on the latest adventure, building as the founder and CEO of Sudozi, the premier procurement software in the world. Rose, thank you so much for joining us today on The Girl Dad Show.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Young. What an introduction.
I try my best, but I do want to hear a little bit more about what you do. Do you mind telling the listeners what you do at Sudozi and what you're working on?
Yeah, so Sudozi is a financial software. We focus on the procurement workflows, procurement analytics, and we work with companies, several hundred employees, several thousand employees. And the way I decided to do this, the reason why I'm doing this is because it actually is a pain point that I felt in many different CFO roles prior. So really, I think that procurement is sort of a secret weapon to help companies achieve better profitability, save more money, reduce wasted spend, all of that good stuff that every business owner wants.
Yeah, and how many finance roles have you had? Because I'm assuming that Uber wasn't the only one, right?
No, but I had probably 10 lifetimes within Uber just because of the way the company grew and the different roles I had there. Working backwards, I was CFO of a Series C startup, VC backed here in Austin called Skill Factor. Prior to that, I was VP Finance at Fundbox. And as many people know, at any VC backed company, fast growth company, you have every 6 months, you have a new role. That Uber prior to that, and then working backwards, I was actually in the operations department at iTunes, leading data science and analytics for the Apple TV and movies functions. So it wasn't I didn't report to the CFO, but I worked very closely with finance, obviously, and various business partners there.
It's amazing. And it sounds like you just had a very dizzying array of high-profile experiences. I mean, starting from school at MIT and just kind of being a high-profile school and then going to high-profile companies. What made you stop that and start a company and go down the opposite route of being a builder?
Well, it may seem like that because I have enough of these roles. I also did a lot of random other things like coach volleyball and things that didn't quite succeed.
Oh, yeah.
So those just didn't make it to the highlight reel, but that's okay.
I love it. Okay, I appreciate you saying that. You're already making me feel a lot better about myself. That's great.
Yeah, and failed job applications, all sorts of things. So happy to talk about that and the realities of just navigating career and now family as well. What got me started with Sudozi was I felt pretty strongly about the type of workflows and data and analytics that finance and companies should be looking at to make decisions about their investments, right? A lot of times we think about spend as like a bad thing, as an expense, but really, where does your revenue come from? Your revenue comes from investments that you're making within the company. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have clear visibility to those investments and how they're being deployed and who you're working with to deploy those investments, you really can't correlate that strongly with revenue. So in my prior roles, I had worked with great teams and built out internal Google Sheets and analytics and processes to essentially have this connectivity of visibility and data analytics that was as automated as possible. And as we all know, you can only automate so much with Google Sheets and email and Slack. And if you can layer on some software engineering and some true, technical advancements we've made in other industries and bring that to finance and investment management, spend management, that really can accelerate companies and let them save more money, hire fewer staff, move faster on decisions, all that good stuff. So that's what really drove me. In terms of being venture-backed, initially we had actually bootstrapped the company and built the software with some consulting engineers offshore, but there was an opportunity. It was also 2021. And we decided to, when I say we, myself, mostly decided to go the venture-backed route. And I had some former colleagues at Uber that were interested, and I was interested in working with them. And so really to have, US based full-time employees, I decided to go the venture back route.
I'm actually surprised. I didn't know that you even try to bootstrap it. That actually is even more interesting to me. So why would you try to bootstrap it?
Well, first of all, I was coming off of a CFO role, and it was really like a side, like something to keep me busy while I was unwinding from the prior role.
You were tinkering.
Yes, I was tinkering around. I didn't want to, it's a commitment to hire someone full time, right? And you don't want to lead them down a path where, there's no job later in 6 months, right? So you want to have more confidence in respecting that individual's time and career path too. And so decided to choose an option. And it was someone we knew who had an offshore company in India, who had great engineers there. So worked with a team there. And another consideration is, not every company should be a venture-backed company, right? We see a lot of that these days, where there may have been some companies that were venture-backed that don't have the growth or don't have the profitability that really warrant that type of investment. Maybe it's a different type of funding that they should have gone for. And so really to understand and have a thesis around that before going down that route.
Yeah, I actually am very glad to hear you say that. I feel like that's something that we've lost track of over the last 3 years, is just the optionality of funding. And I think there's just been this kind of fervor around venture-backed funding, right? And the funding itself is now the prize or the goal, which is kind of hard to fathom as a finance person, right? It's where does the money equal out, right? And so it's very good for you to say that, and I can't wait to cut that into a little TikTok for me to share with people, because I think it needs to be said more often, right? Don't, the point isn't to raise money. The point is to build an awesome business, and so.
Well, I would say further, the point isn't even to build an awesome business. The point is to build a business that solves a lot of people's problems.
There you go.
So that's the further step there. It's great if a great business comes out as an outcome too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. That's a great mindset. That's a great business approach, Rose. Let's switch gears. Does it mimic that same approach, that mimic in your parenting? What's your parenting approach?
Yeah, my parenting approach, I don't know if I even this is how not strategic I am in some categories. I think thinking optimizing and thinking for the long term, right? There's only so many things you can really pay attention to and focus on and drill in, right? You can't give them a lecture about every single thing that they're doing during the day. So if you are prioritizing what you want to communicate, what you want to focus on, what takeaways you want them to have, what experiences you want them to have, how you want them to feel, you can't optimize everything, right? Literally half an hour before this call, trying to brush their teeth, entire shirt got wet, won't let me brush first. They have to brush, and then I can do a check. Dude, all right, I got you into the bathroom and got some toothpaste and toothbrush in your mouth. That's a win for the morning, right? So really being selective, and the same with business, same with operations, being selective of what you actually focus on and making sure that the important things are communicated in a calm way, but not trying to focus on everything.
I love that's the similarity. What are some of the differences? Because I know you started to allude to the fact that you're not as strategic in all aspects, but I'm assuming you're fairly strategic and rigorous in your Sudozi business. But are those things kind of less articulated in the family side, or do you kind of let things go as it goes? Or
yeah, I would say, and this might be just a difference in business versus raising kids, right? I've never had my child's 4 now. I've never had a 5-year-old child. So I literally don't know what that looks like in my position, right? But in work or business, there are other Series A companies out there. There are other, I'm not running them, but I think there's a lot of data that I can get pretty close up. And every company is different too. So I'm not saying, things are repeatable across companies, but there's just a little bit more personality and risk, the unexpected behaviors and things that I just don't know. So I have to be a little bit more flexible for. Whereas I kind of know which milestones we have to hit to, raise a Series A or raise a Series B in the venture-backed world. So that then translates to me making sure that, going back to that other point, like what do I want to focus on, right? And how much energy do I want to put on one thing versus another? I think because there's not as clear of a right path in raising the kids, I probably am even less enforceful. I don't know, enforceful is the right word, but like I feel even less strongly about some of the opinions I hold going into certain circumstances, just because I don't know as much in that new frontier age group that I'm dealing with.
That's interesting. Yeah, I love that approach, and I think I share that same kind of sentiment as you do. I'm fairly operationally tight. I like things to be, I'm going to use the word forceful and enforceful. I like things in a box. I like things very neat and systematized, right? I like things to like have a clear start and end. But then when it comes to parenting, I don't have any. Like, it's almost the exact opposite. There's almost no boxes. And it's incredibly funny to hear you say that, and kind of like articulate it because I think I understand like way more than you may realize, because, people just assume that I'm super organized with my kids. And I'm like, no, I'm the exact opposite as it relates to work and family, because I don't know how to handle them. I can't reason with them like I can reason with business. There's ways that I can like take best practices, frameworks, and systems, and it does not work with a toddler, and if anything, it causes complete chaos and mayhem, and it's just absolute ridiculousness, and you can't fire them. And so you just have to learn how to work past it. And so I've become very, very empathetic to what you're saying, and probably way worse off than what you're even alluding to.
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah.
So has your approach started to evolve over time as you started to think about like, what you want for them as they get older?
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of my main goals is making sure that I don't unintentionally close any doors for them by enforcing certain things or, nudging them towards one behavior that I think is right, but, may dampen their creativity later on, for instance. Right. And so I think that's one thing I'm trying to be aware of, is that like when I share comments or when I do things, is that, for example, if they have a creative thought, but it's like not that accepted, like running around naked at the house when there are guests over, right? Like how much do we embrace that creative thought versus how much are we like, no, go back into the bathroom, go take a shower. And I think from a lot of successful business professionals, a lot of entrepreneurs for sure, you see that creativity that is like almost childlike, right? Like, wow, how did you think about that? Like, I never thought about that design or that user experience or that product. And you wonder like, hey, what was their upbringing like to have encouraged that and have that maintained decades later? And how does that translate to, still be able to take a shower and have some sort of routine in the house, but maintaining that creativity. So just striking that balance there, I think is, it's something that I'm aware of, and I'm not sure I do it. Who knows if I actually do it right, but it's something that I think about.
Yeah. I mean, like G.I. Joe said, knowing's half the battle. I think just being aware of that is super important, and it sounds like you're very conscious of the fact that that's important to you to not tamper their creativity while also balancing in structure. That's fantastic, and I'm learning how similar we are. It's kind of fun listening to you talk, because I'm the same way. I actually like don't want them to necessarily go into operations or business or finance. I would love it if they did, because then we could like bond over my passions. I'm good at
doing podcasts.
In doing podcasts, yeah, that would be amazing. But I do want them to just experience a lot, right? And just like figure out what the world is and what they like about things, and just like try as many things as possible. And so it's a very challenging balance, because I think that you also have to make sure that they stay alive, right? And like, they brush their teeth and they're healthy and do all these things. But yeah, it's a tricky balance, but I totally understand what you're saying. Let me ask you it this way. So as it relates to being, kind of that driving force of like giving them opportunity to, be creative and have those thoughts while also giving them routine, how are you navigating that while building a business? Because like both of those things are incredibly time consuming. I can't imagine you being a Series A company and saying like, oh yeah, it's super easy. I have all the time in the world. The Series A founders are typically tired and busy. So yeah, talk to me about your experience building a company or early stage company and being a parent.
I'm happy to share. I as I mentioned, so my younger son is 2.5. He'll be 3, early next year, and it's about the same age as the company. So we launched the product literally like probably 2 weeks before I gave birth to my second child.
No way.
And part of that is because it was like a side project, right? So I was doing a side project while I was pregnant, and it kind of rolled into this thing. And now I joke we have twins. But first of all, just really having a support system. I'm having a great family, great husband. My parents are, they don't live here, but they do come if we need them to help out or whatnot. They're here for the holidays. I think that's one, just having, great people, amazing people around you. The second thing is be okay with what you want to let go of and not control. All right. So being okay, getting help. So we've had a full-time nanny. We go to a Montessori school here, and dude, I'm not involved in the curriculum like at all. It's like, oh yeah, you're gonna teach them that? Great. Like,
Yeah.
Like, I'll look at some pictures and stuff. So definitely like being, and not everyone's like that, right? And I know there are certain aspects of my life where I'm not okay, like letting go of certain things, and I want to just run it. I want to maintain control of different parts. So knowing what you're okay, sort of getting help with, just kind of like, it's very similar to building a team, right? Like you can't do everything. You can't be the IC for every single function. Then finally, I'd say being able to operate on less sleep is probably not the healthiest thing long term, but as you mentioned, like I don't know what other founders are like. I'm more of a late night person, so I work every night from like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. no matter what the day was like. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's just an extra 4 hours I find in the day to get work done.
Yeah. I love that you just shared that. That's awesome, because I feel like a crazy person when I tell people that, but I do the same. I absolutely do the same, but it does allow me the flexibility to be a little bit more integrated during the day. So like yesterday I was able to like take time out to go to my kids' holiday party at school. And so
for sure.
Really, exactly. That's really fun for me to be able to like, stop in the middle of the day, because I know I have that 4 or 5 hours in the evening.
Sleep, exactly.
Right? And so it justifies it for me, but not only justifies it, it physically allows me to do that, while not
it can be double-edged sword, right? Because like you have this extra time.
Talk to me about it. Yeah, talk to me about it.
Well,
what do you mean?
Certainly. Like you have this extra time, so you there are cutoffs during the day, right? Like I have to go get them for dinner. I have to do some prep for dinner, etc. Like that happens, and I'm pretty there obviously there's travel and some stuff, but I'm home most of the nights, and we're doing dinner, I'm doing bath and bedtime and stories together, right? So that's a pretty important time of day, but you can do that, like you said, because you have this extra time. And so sometimes it's good and bad, right? It gives you a little bit more flexibility during the day to actually think a bit more and not just crank out these 20 emails that you have to send out. Mm-hmm. But the downside is we all probably should sleep a little bit more. And knowing that you have that extra pocket of time in the evening can be a blessing and a curse too.
Yeah, totally is. Absolutely. And I hope that, as my kids get older, it becomes less physical. And I think our kids are the same age, so it's very physical. But I've heard from a lot of my mentors that have older kids that the struggle of parenthood moves from physicality to
mental gymnastics.
Mental pain and torture. And so it does allow for you to be able to sleep more, and so it does move. So hopefully, that's a time and stage of being a parent. Hopefully that helps you feel a little bit more hopeful at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
See a little light at
Yeah.
the end of the tunnel. The pain moves in different ways, but I'd love to know, like, are you doing things for yourself, like to continue to like adapt, as you learn more about being a parent and being an entrepreneur? Like, what are you actively trying to do to like think about this problem and assess it, right? Because it sounds like you're pretty thoughtful about how it's impacting your life and what you're doing. What else are you doing to like build those routines or habits, or are you learning anything new that you can do to like help you as you adapt? This episode of The Girl Dad Show is brought to you by Owners Club. As a business owner myself, I know firsthand how challenging the journey can be. Whether it's having someone that I can ask a very tactical question to, or just being able to share my big successes without guilt. Building a business is a lonely journey, and it does not have to be. After building and coaching dozens of businesses to success, there is one insight that is so obvious and simple, yet hard to execute. And that is network equals net worth. And so if you're a growth-minded, supportive, smart, and hardworking business owner looking for a community of like-minded entrepreneurs to build with, look no further than the Owners Club. You will make lifelong friends and build your business that works for you. You can learn more online at owners.club.
Maybe I'll answer that in a slightly different way, which is just like, how do I carve out time for myself and things that, I used to do when I was like single before getting married. And, the honest truth is there's not a ton of time. But we do, I am purposeful about at least carving out some time every year to have like one-on-one time with each of my kids, and obviously time with my husband and time with my parents and time with my brother. And so, for example, last year, it was the first year we probably could do this. Like I did a one-on-one trip to Atlanta with my older son, who was at the time, he was 3 turning 4. And my husband and I are doing a quick trip over the holidays while my parents are here. And so I think that time with family is great, but then actually double clicking on that and seeing how you're allocating that time and what percentage is going to like group family time, what percentage is going to one-on-one. And then of course, at the end of the day, I also want to have a little time for myself. So I recently started to just do some walks. Like, I know that sounds so silly. And when I was playing volleyball and I was much more active earlier in my life, I would be like, why are these people just walking? Why don't they go like workout or do? And now I understand why these people are just walking, because sometimes you don't have the time, you don't have the mental capacity to go do like a heavy like weight workout or go to a yoga class or something. So getting that 20-30 minute walk in around your neighborhood is maybe all you can squeeze in during the day. And I've at least started to prioritize that, which is great. And it gives you not only you actually get quite a bit of like just physical benefits from moving around for 20 to 30 minutes walking. And as silly as that may sound, but it's actually significantly better than just sitting here. And it gives you time to think. It gives you time to listen to your favorite podcast, catch up on the Girl Dad Show or whatever it is that is more of like that me time. And I think if you go out seeking to improve yourself and to all these things and be super efficient with that, I'm sure you'll achieve it. But in my experience, it's been some of like thinking outside the box or listening to a podcast like this or something else that actually I can take those lessons and apply it back to my personal life. So I don't know if I'm actively seeking to like improve myself directly, but I think I'm improving myself through all these other activities that I'm doing, including some work activities too.
Yeah, I love that. And I totally agree with the sentiment of the walk. I think that, oftentimes it's so hard to even like justify doing anything for yourself. And I think that it's incredibly important, because if you can find that time to like even walk, it's like both physical, but it's also mental. It's like a mental escape for a minute too, giving your brain a break. And I think it allows you to be a better parent, because I think that a lot of the times I have such a hard time being a parent because I'm a much better kid than I'm a parent, right? I'm a much better friend to my kids than I'm a parent. And so when things get really tense, like I'm like, oftentimes I don't need the physicality. I actually need the mental break from them to come back and like go, okay, I need to be a better parent by being more patient and walking through the reasoning behind this stuff. And so I think it's an incredibly powerful statement, and I love the way that you answered it. Can you talk to me a little bit about your childhood and like how you grew up? What kind of led you to having this kind of mindset?
Yeah, sure. I was born in Shanghai. When I was 3, I came to the U.S. with my mom. My dad was already here, and we moved around a bit due to his profession. He was actually a cancer researcher, so worked at different research universities, and then became a pathologist. So I actually learned this recently, that my first night in the U.S. was spent at a hotel airport near Chicago O'Hare, because my mom had missed, the incoming flight from Shanghai had missed the connection from Chicago to Rochester, New York, which is where my dad was, and he was at the University of Rochester. So my first night in the U.S. was in Chicago, and we caught a flight the next morning to Rochester, New York. So lived there. Moved down to Atlanta. My dad was at Emory for a little bit, and went to kindergarten there. And then he was a resident at West Virginia University, so we moved to Morgantown, West Virginia, and I spent some time there. And then eventually we moved and found our way to Long Island. And so initially we were in Nassau County at Winthrop Hospital, which is now part of NYU. And then he moved to be a full-time pathologist at a hospital system further east, so in Suffolk County. So my parents still live about an hour east of New York City. And that's when I went to high school, middle school and high school.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so how do your parents think about you starting this business? And what are their thoughts on you kind of navigating from a researcher parent to now having a daughter that's a startup founder?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I didn't really have any exposure to startup life and technology, and having coming up and being raised in like the Chinese system, my parents are very much optimizing for test scores and test taking, and so I definitely had a fair amount of that rigor drilled into me when I was younger, and so I've been very, I would say, ambitious and ambitious plus curious, probably more curious now than earlier. And jokes on them. So now they think I work too hard, and I should, my mom every night, like, are you going to bed yet? Are you going to bed yet? Are you going to bed yet? And I was like, dude, how do you think I got this way?
Yeah.
It was because of the rigor earlier on. And so, but of course it's also like, I'm very interested in what I'm doing, and I'm passionate about what I'm doing. But definitely had an influence from my childhood to be hardworking, be curious, do different things. And I really didn't have any exposure to technology until, at least high school, if not college. So that's, I would say, the biggest shift. I actually applied at MIT thinking, I was going to be a biology major and go into med school or something like that. Because that's all I knew, right? That was my world in the medical and the sciences. But of course, it's obviously great to have that breadth of exposure at a great university and know great people who majored in different things, had different life experiences, and sort of walked the random walk to where I am today.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what, just out of curiosity, what made you pivot from biology to finance?
Oh, well, I mean, I would say, like, I wasn't sure if I even wanted to major. I was just like, that was something I knew that I had like put on my application. I actually did a little bit of engineering, and I had enough credits to actually get 2 degrees, but I hadn't taken all the right coursework in civil engineering. So I did civil engineering for a little bit. I did some software engineering for a little bit, but I realized, especially being at MIT, that I was not even like in the top half of the class for any of those things.
Yeah.
But I was actually like decent at economics, and I was decent at working with people. And so I wound up majoring in economics, which is pretty much like a math major at MIT.
Yeah.
So majoring in economics, and then spending some time doing other extracurricular and leadership activities on campus as well.
Nice. Awesome. Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's always fun to listen to how people pivot their careers and like how they actually apply their choices, their insights and values to the choices that they make, and then also see how it impacts. But yours is actually pretty straightforward. I like that you made those decisions, and it was very pragmatic. It's almost very, 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 what's it called? Almost quantifiable. And then and then you're actually doing what you studied. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, it's great. In a lot of ways, you're like the perfect Asian. I like it. Your parents must be super proud.
Yeah.
So what are some of the really important values that you are now trying to exude both in your company and also in your personal life as a parent?
Yeah. I think the first one, I don't know if you classify it actually as a value or not, but the first one is just staying humble, knowing that you don't know everything. Literally no one has had this set of data at the same time, right? Like the 2023, 2024 economy, growing a business at this stage, all the various, macro things going on in the world, different conflicts, different supply chain issues. So literally no one has experienced this exact set of circumstances. And so just being humble, taking and listening to different opinions, understanding how different people feel and how that can impact them in their work or in their daily lives. And yeah, just being pretty humble, going out and trying to achieve great things, but also understand different perspectives and having the empathy. Then I'd say on the flip side of that is, there are things that I can control. I can control how hard I work, how much time I spend on certain categories of work and family. And so having that, work ethic and that comes from a genuine place, right? Like no one's forcing me to work, and just like no one's forcing you to do this podcast, right? But having that curiosity, having that interest, and having that work ethic to really achieve those great things and hopefully help a lot of people as an outcome. And so that's something that I really value as well, just having that work ethic no matter what you're doing.
Beautiful. That's amazing. Rose, I love that. And let's switch gears on the questions and kind of go more onto some of my closing questions here, because I don't know if there's going to be a better way to stop the regular questioning. That was very, very beautiful. I love it. Humility and work ethic.
Thanks. If I just want an ego boost, I'll come on this podcast now. You've been great to chat with.
Absolutely. You can come whenever to get the ego boost, but I mean it. That's the cool thing. Like, I think that for me, like, the main reason I started this is because there must be people that are figuring this out in new ways and different ways than I'm figuring it out, right? Like, how are they like navigating their careers and building that while they're building a family, and that curiosity and that to a certain degree humility, right? Like, just knowing that, like, hey, there's other people doing this, I should ask them, and it's literally the genesis of why I'm even doing this. And so you've literally encapsulated the first half of it, and I think the work ethic part I'm starting to figure out right now, as we were joking before we started the podcast, because you're like watching me do all this setup and all these things. And I'm like, yeah, I have to now, because like it's become this whole thing, and it's like much harder than it used to be, where I used to just flip on a recording and I talk to people. Now it's like a show, Now I'm like, now it's like work. And I was trying to explain to you like that evolution, but you saying that, it just like kind of crystallized and validated what I've been struggling to articulate over this year, even just doing this podcast. And so I actually meant it. So it's not even just an ego boost for you. I actually mean it. I think that's incredible value prop. I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
So back to parenting. Talk to me about what advice you have or you would give to other working parents seeking to find success in both.
Oh, I don't know if I'm in a good spot to give advice, but maybe I'll go back to the balance, right? Like making sure you know what you need. Don't, in the different categories of life or fulfillment, don't get down so low on like your me time that it's going to negatively affect other people in your family, your work environment, right? So make sure you maintain some amount of, like, look, you don't need to go to like a yoga class every night. Like maybe that can't happen now, right? That's not realistic, but maybe you should go at least once a week, right? And see if that satisfies those, me time requirements. And you don't know what those are until sometimes you trip them, right? Sometimes you go too low and then you have to come back up. And so, and that's okay too. So just, I'd say, prioritize finding out what those thresholds are for yourself, for your family, and then draw those boundaries. And then maybe it's not this job, or maybe it's not this other thing. Like figure out what works for you. And I think the advice is pretty general, right? Like it doesn't some people, and there's no right or wrong answer. Like some people may need to go to yoga every night, and that's totally fine. That's who you are. So figure out what your boundaries are and then communicate those and make sure that you're working as a team with whomever you are working with to parent the children.
Yeah, awesome. So what are some of your goals, both professionally and personally, and as a parent? What are you thinking like you want to achieve, or what do you want to achieve for yourself and your life in the next few years here?
Yeah, just being happy, being fed, having enough calories during the day. I think I'll break that down. That and self could be like a whole separate podcast. But for the company, I want to achieve, we're still early stage, right? We have a number of great customers, but we want to make sure that we're helping more procurement professionals, more companies realize their profitability potential, their growth potential. So we want to work with as many companies as possible to help achieve those goals. And we want to make sure not just work with them, but make sure that we're actually delivering the right software, helping them do what they want to do faster and getting to the data they need faster, right? So that's definitely a professional goal, to make sure that we're accelerating more companies. On the personal side, is just really excited, taking it day by day and seeing, what kind of activities, books, toys, things the kids are into. We signed up our older son for a YMCA basketball league. I don't know if you call it league at like 5 years old, 4.5 years old, 5 years old. So excited for that, and just seeing where, and sports may not be his thing. Who knows? Maybe it is. It just seeing where things go naturally and just encouraging that. And I think at this time next year or in a few years, if folks are happy and doing the things that they like doing and enjoy doing, they don't feel forced to be doing that. I think that's pretty successful.
Nice way to articulate it. That's awesome. And then can you just share with the listeners, maybe like the most funniest or most rewarding moment you've had building your business while building your family over the last few years?
Well, I my memory, because I'm not sleeping that much, my memory is not that great. So I'll just share something that happened literally last week. So on the business front, we helped one of our customers roll out our procurement software to the entire company. So they're at an 800-person company, global. They've got operations US, Australia, Europe, you name it. Maybe not Antarctica, but they're a highly global company. And one of our key points of contact there sent us a screenshot from a product leader of a very large business internally, saying how this tool has made his life easier using procurement in a digital platform rather than having to send emails and shepherd a request across 10 different teams and doing things wrong. And so that was just great to share with the team, because not only was he using the platform, but he was a leader inside the company, and so that was really rewarding. On the kid front, just really seeing how much joy little things can bring to kids. So I went to, we hosted an event, a female in finance event in New York, and the sponsor, they had these like cute little, Christmas ornaments. They couldn't have been worth more than like $2, like monetary value, right? So I brought 2 of those home, and they were just so excited to put additional ornaments on the tree, and just seeing that pure joy and seeing that as we grow older, we like put different emphasis on money and monetary thing, but, sort of having a reset and being, not biased by power or money or anything like that. And just like being able to be really happy about really simple things that happen in life.
That's awesome. And then I'm trying to this thing. I've been really thinking a lot about it, but because you said that you go Montessori, I'm actually curious about it, because I don't know if you've been reading up on it or keeping up with this whole unschool movement. Have you heard of this? Where there's more and more people starting to homeschool because the school system is, like really cranking out, productive workers versus like actually like, adapting to the needs of the student, and so I just love your take on that. What do you think about this whole movement?
Young, I honestly don't have a strong take on that. I think it's like, you do you. If you think homeschooling is better and you have the resources and time, go do it. The reason why we go to the Montessori school is because it's 8 minutes from our house.
That's amazing.
Like,
So
I mean, I'm sure there are
pragmatic and
other schools
practical.
nearby, but that was, I mean, of course, it's a great school, right? Like, it's safe. The kids have fun there. They look forward to going, but like, it's 8 minutes from our house. Yeah.
That was the best answer ever. That was awesome. Okay, very good. And then just to close us out, do you have a favorite book that you can recommend?
Oh, there are a lot of great books. I would say, again, I'll go with recency because, my memory doesn't work that well. I recently just listened to Peter Attia's Outlive.
Yeah.
And I'll give you, I'm not ruining anything for anyone. Don't eat so much sugar and move around a little bit. And you'll live longer. So that's sort of
Nice.
The gist of it. But it is really, joking aside, it is actually kind of sad how little I knew about how my, the body worked. Like, do you know what the kidney does? Do you know what the liver does? How does it do it? Right? Like, do you know how sugar impacts different parts of your body? Like, how do you convert sugar to energy that your cells use? So really, some of these things that aren't rocket science, maybe I learned them in biology class, maybe not. I can tell you I did learn a good chunk of that in biology class. And so just knowing how and being curious about how your body works and how you can actually help yourself while not trading off that many things you enjoy as well. So it's a good one, I think, is relevant literally for every human being.
Yeah, I've been getting super into longevity and movement and like researching a lot of this stuff over the last like month or two. My body is just not working, and I can like feel it. And so I just started this process of getting into it. It's crazy how little I know. Like, I genuinely don't even know how to answer that question. I don't even know. I have a general sense of what my kidney does, but I don't actually know what it does, And so it is really kind of an interesting factoid to level out because why don't we know that? We know so much about stuff that doesn't even matter. And
but you're with this thing every single day, every single hour, second.
I'm gonna go read that book. I appreciate it. It's kind of like my cheat code to getting good books to read to my list, so I'll definitely incorporate that because especially it's like hot and heavy on my mind right now, and I've been like really focused in on that. Thank you for that.
No
Rose,
problem.
this was awesome. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to be on my show and sharing a little bit about your journey as a parent and as an entrepreneur, and then getting to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for the time, Young. Really
Thank you so much.
appreciate
We'll talk soon.
it. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. This episode of The Girl Dad Show is brought to you by you. We have been working very hard to bring you the best guests and content to the show and have been steadily growing month over month. And we're finally ready to start talking to businesses that want to partner with us to promote on our show. So if you know anyone that would be interested in having me promote their business on The Girl Dad Show, please email us at young@thegirldadshow.com. Thank you for your support and look forward to learning how to be a great parent together.